And everybody knows about the Huawei phone. We've talked about this, but by now I think most people have forgotten about it.
If you don't know, China has a brand called Huawei. It's been under all kinds of scrutiny for spying on stuff. It's been banned in multiple countries. It's been speculated to have ties to potentially the People's Liberation Army, right?
Obviously it does.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Sure,
I'm trying to be diplomatic here. But anyway,
Okay.
they came out with a phone that was supposed to break sanctions by making their own homegrown chip that goes in there, a 7-nanometer chip. So a couple generations behind what's out.
Yeah, the new iPhone 15 is a 3-nanometer chip.
Yes, so the idea was that China doesn't need to worry about sanctions because they can do everything themselves.
Do it themselves, yeah.
And it turns out this phone was a piece of trash. It's not that good. It performs like an iPhone 2018, 2019, that kind of benchmark.
It's overheating, it's crashing.
Yeah.
Lots of people having problems. But there's one thing that, of course, the nationalists would never, ever admit there's anything wrong with it. They still will stand behind it, even if it burns them and whatever. But there's one thing that a lot of nationalists were doing to prove that it's better than an iPhone. And this was taking pictures of the moon. Oh, yeah.
The moon.
The moon. So anyway, Huawei, look, Samsung's done this as well in the past, by the way. This is probably where Huawei got the idea from.
They copied the copy.
I don't think they came up with this by themselves.
Samsung came up with it. What you're saying is Samsung came up with a crappy, cheap ploy, and Huawei even copied that.
Yeah, they copied it. They thought that's a good idea.
Yeah.
What they do is, well, here's a demonstration, and then we'll explain what's going on.
This is pretty wild.
So this is a demonstration of the Huawei phone, and this enterprising dude decided what he's going to do is, well, let's just take a look. I'll play it, and then you can kind of figure out what's going on. He's got reflections of his light on the tiles of his apartment, and he zooms into it in the moon mode, because there's a moon photo mode on the Huawei phones. Okay?
What a mode.
Yeah. And... oh, wow, look, it's such a clear picture of the moon.
Pause it there.
Yeah.
So he basically, you're saying he has tiles.
Yes.
He has just, your kind of clinical looking lights on the top of his roof.
Yeah.
And they're shining down, making a perfect circle on the ground as a reflection.
Yeah, it's just like a light, a blurry light. The thing is, when you put the Huawei phone into the moon photo mode, what it does is it looks for a light source
that looks like the moon.
It thinks is the moon, and then it just superimposes a picture out of a database that kind of matches the...
Yeah, so what it's doing is, because you guys probably know, if you ever try to take a photo of the moon, it doesn't work.
Yeah, try with your phone. It's always small or blurry or terrible.
Or really any camera, unless you got a massive telephoto lens on it. Yeah. If you try to do it, it's like a feat of science or something. Nobody knows why, but it will always stay small.
Yeah, it's weird. You see this massive moon. You like snap off a picture, you're like, what?
You're like, dude, check these, send it to your wife.
Yeah.
Look did you see the moon? And they're like, what? That looks like shit.
Yeah, exactly. What is this pinpoint?
Yeah, what is this little pinpoint? Anyway, so what you're telling me, to simplify this to the most layman terms, is that when you put it in moon mode, it wants to tell the user basically that we're going to make it specially formulated. We're going to use all this computing power and the special lens and stuff to show a really clear image of the moon.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to give you a good picture of the moon.
Because our flagship phone is better than iPhones and things like that.
Sure.
But what it does is it goes through a data bank of images that are already taken of the moon.
Yeah, but like professional telescopes and stuff, right?
That
it's just faking it.
Incredible.
Now remember, Samsung did do this too. I don't know, what the deal with that is, but
I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, they did it with one of their phones. But just so that you know, if you see the Wu Mao or the nationalists trying to tell you that the Huawei phones are better than an iPhone because they take a good picture of the moon, now you know that it's just fake. It's like this guy who's taking a picture of his tile, okay, which has just got a reflection of light around light, and it turns out to be the moon. And I thought that was pretty hilarious.
That is pretty funny.
Yeah. He took a whole screen recording of it, so you can see it as his... Huawei, see, he zoomed out of his reflection on his tiles there.
When will my reflection show moon I am?
Yeah.
This is pretty funny. Oh, yeah, this is the thing I wanted to point out. Research firm says Huawei's Kirin 9000S isn't true 7-nanometer chipset. But this is still not finished.
Yeah, they're still looking into
it. Keep your eyes on this, because I think remember we said this is going to develop later. Like, we'll find out the truth about this phone a little bit later, and I think it's starting to unravel.
On top of that, China really shot itself in the foot with this. And by the way, by China, it's China, not Huawei. It's the Chinese government. This is supposed to beat American sanctions.
Yeah.
This has all got to do with the government. Huawei is a government company. It's a big part of China. It's a big push
got
with
ties,
nationalism.
direct ties to the
It's got party members own it and are on the board and in the company and all that. But never mind that. Huawei is married to the government completely. There's no separation at all. That's why it becomes a point where the government will actually take hostages on behalf of Huawei.
Yes.
And things
we've
like
seen
that.
the proof of that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So don't ever get confused. Don't let anyone try to tell you Huawei's just a company.
Yeah, this was floating around the internet. It says Huawei 5G was like a hockey jersey or something. And then somebody threw an expertise.
I like that a lot.
It was on the subreddit. Another thing, New Delhi police raid homes and offices of journalists. There was a big sweep, and this is actually huge, which caught this news website called NewsClick in India. And what it was it's alleged until the court case. I won't say it's proven yet, but it was basically a farm for Chinese propaganda into India and abroad in English.
Yeah.
So it was massive. It wasn't like a little hobbyist forum. This was a massive platform in India, working on behalf of China.
Yeah, funded by China.
Yeah, spreading propaganda everywhere, and it has ties to a lot of weird stuff that have been coming up on our radar previously.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's something to keep an eye on. We'll see what happens with the trials and stuff, but it's very interesting. We're starting to see actually something that came up on my radar as well. Was I've seen a lot of anti-India propaganda coming out of the Western shills as well.
Yes.
And that's something to keep an eye on because there's obviously some sort of push to try to get involved in India. And I reckon we're going to see some sort of PSYOP campaign from China. This is probably part of it, in my opinion.
I agree.
That is trying to sway India to be part of the global South as opposed to the Western polar world or whatever.
Sure.
You know this crap they're trying to do with BRICS?
Yeah.
I suspect there's a big campaign for that.
For sure. Definitely.
Something to look into.
Tourist sites in China sucks. Look, that's the Great Wall. Do you want to be there? That looks like it's going to collapse.
It is giving me PTSD.
If you're
You would be a psycho.
if you're suizel, you travel during the New Year.
That, like a tribal skirt type of thing that men would wear that's not pants.
Okay, I don't like this guy already.
Okay. And then he cried because of the sheer beauty and scale of the whole thing.
Wow. This just looks like depression hell right here. I wanted my money back. This is what you see. This has got to be look at what am I looking at here? This has got to be the most depressing thing in the whole world.
You really did just believe that Mao was God. And he gave me a shirt to put on and I had to stand like that.
This is accurate though because the only thing the Communist Party ever did was sit around.
can almost sing it. When I take a breath, you fill up my lungs. And if my mind